Back to Scott's Weekend Sports today, ladies and gentlemen. I've been off for about 3 or 4 weeks now, but I'm back and better than ever. I'm ready to get back into the nitty-gritty this week. And for all you people that do March Madness, I'm going to give you my tips and my bracket fill-out for this year's tournament. So we will start on the top left-hand side of your bracket, where you see the number 1 seed, Virginia, going against UNBC. No question here, Virginia's been absolutely dominant all year. Only giving up about 53 points a game. Absolutely phenomenal. They've been incredible. I'll move Virginia over into the second round. And Kansas State and Creighton, 2 very good teams. But I think Kansas State has had tougher competition all year. So I'll take K-State in a very close game over Creighton. But if you want to go with Creighton there, I wouldn't blame you there either. Next up, Kentucky and Davidson. Kentucky is the winner of the SEC tournament this year. So I will move Kentucky over. John Calipari always has this team ready and willing to go for the NCAA tournament. So I'll move Kentucky over into the second round as well. Next up, Arizona and Buffalo. DeAndre Ayton, one of the best players in college basketball. In my opinion, he should absolutely be the first pick in the NBA draft come June. So I'm going to take DeAndre Ayton and Arizona to move on over Buffalo and set up a big game on Saturday, either Saturday or Sunday against Kentucky. Next up, Loyola Chicago and Miami, the 6-11. These are always scary, so I'm taking the upset here. I think Loyola Chicago's got one of the best defenses in college basketball. Very underappreciated team. They're coming out of a very small conference, but their defense has been absolutely phenomenal all season. So I'm taking Loyola Chicago to upset the Hurricanes in the first round and move over the 11th seed into the second round. Next up, number 3 seed Tennessee going against number 14 seed Wright State. I'm going to take Tennessee here. The Vols have had a very good season as well. The Volunteers are having a very good season. One of their best seasons ever. And I think that they are going to move on into the second round as well. Next up, Nevada and Texas. And I think the return of Mo Bamba is going to be the reason here. I'm going to take Texas over Nevada. Mo Bamba's been one of the best players in college basketball when he's healthy, and I think he will be 100% ready to go in this game. So I'm going to take Texas, the 10th seed, over Nevada. Next up, the 2 seed Cincinnati, the American Athletic Conference champions this year, going against the 15th seed Georgia State. I think Cincinnati's going to win this game with ease. Cincinnati's had a very good season all year long. So I think Cincinnati's moving on to the second round. And now into my second round for the top half of your bracket. I think Virginia's moving on against Kansas State. Just too much defense and too much star power in the team. I think Virginia wins this game with ease. Next up, Kentucky and Arizona. Probably the toughest game for me to pick in the second round. 2 very good teams. But I think it's going to be DeAndre Ayton and Arizona. They just have too much star power in this game, too much confidence going in. I think that DeAndre Ayton and Arizona get it done against Kentucky. Next up, Loyola Chicago and Tennessee. I'm actually going to move Loyola Chicago over one more. I think that their defense has been doing very well. Their offense is not great, but when you have a defense like that, it doesn't have to be. So I think Loyola Chicago is going to move on into the Sweet 16, in my opinion. And then Cincinnati and Texas, the 2-10 matchup. I think it's going to be Cincinnati moving over. Cincinnati's got one of the best defenses in college basketball. They've been doing very well all season. So I'm going to move Cincinnati over into the Sweet 16. Next up, Cincinnati and Virginia Virginia and Arizona. I'll take Virginia in this game. Virginia, again, too much defense. Their defense has been unbelievable all season. So I'm going to move Virginia over into the Elite Eight. Next up, Cincinnati and Loyola Chicago. Give me Cincinnati over Loyola Chicago. The slipper will not fit for Loyola Chicago anymore in this game. I think Cinderella's slipper is not going to fit. I think Cincinnati's going to continue their road and move on into the next round of the tournament. Next up, the 1-2 matchup, Cincinnati and Virginia. First team to score 50 in this game will win. This is going to be a low-scoring game. Both teams are based on defense. I think Virginia's just got a little bit more offensive firepower, so I'm going to take Virginia to move into my Final Four. Next up, on the bottom half of the left side, Xavier, the number 1 seed, Musketeers will easily move on. Here's a quick tip for you. Whenever you see a number 1 seed, move them over, because the 16 has never beaten a 1, and I don't think it's going to happen this year. Next up, the 8-9, Missouri and Florida State. I think the big question in this game is Michael Porter Jr. If Michael Porter is able to go, I think Missouri will win this game. But after what I saw in the SEC tournament, I just don't think he'll be 100% ready. So I'm going to take Florida State for now, but I could change that up before tomorrow's deadline. So I'll take Florida State for now. Next up, Ohio State and South Dakota State. 2 teams that are coming in very good. This always happens every year. One team gets overhyped out of the Big Ten, and they get knocked out pretty early, and I think that's going to be the problem that Ohio State runs into this year. I'm going to take the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State. They've had a very good season, and I think that they're going to find a way to beat Ohio State in the first round. So we'll see about that. Next up, Houston and San Diego State. Me and my dad disagree on this game. My dad picked San Diego State over in his bracket, but I believe in the man bun. Rob Gray and Houston will get it done. Rob Gray's been one of the best players in the American all season. So I'm going to take Rob Gray and Houston to get out in the first round. Next up, number 3 seeded Michigan. John Beilein has one of his best teams coming into the tournament as they take on the Montana Grizzlies. I think Michigan easily wins this game. Michigan should have no problem with Montana tomorrow. Michigan rolls through Montana and shows people why they could be a Final Four team this year. Next up, Texas A&M and Providence. A very good game, 7-10. I think Providence wins it again. I'm taking both 10 seeds so far. So I think Providence pulls it off. Again, Texas A&M was off to a hot start this year. They just did not do very well in SEC play. I just don't think they have enough power right now. The Providence Friars pull it off over Texas A&M. Next up, Joe Barry and North Carolina going against Lipscomb. And I think North Carolina easily wins this game. Joel Berry's been playing unbelievable all season. Joel Berry's been playing great. Marvin Bagley's actually with Duke, who I'll be talking about a little bit later on in the episode. But I like Duke to win this game. North Carolina win this game. Joel Berry, absolutely unbelievable. And it's not just because I met Coach Roy Williams at an Oviedo basketball game earlier this year. But I'm going to take North Carolina easy over Lipscomb. Next up, back over to the top half, the number 1 seed Xavier going against the 9 seed Florida State. I think Florida State gets out of the first, but they're not getting out of the second. Xavier's just got too much power. They have a very good team this year, and I think that Xavier is going to win this game over Florida State. Next up, South Dakota State and Gonzaga. The Gonzaga Bulldogs have been playing very well all season long, and I did move Gonzaga over UNCG. I forgot to say that, but I do think so. And I think Gonzaga moves over to the third round as well. Gonzaga is a very good team this year, a team that I thought was going to be a little bit off this year with all those seniors last year. But Gonzaga moves over to the third round as well. Michigan and Houston. Unfortunately, Houston fans, this will be the last time you get to see the man bun this year. Rob Gray will graduate after this game. Michigan wins this game over Houston and ends a very good career for Rob Gray at the University of Houston. So I'll take John Beilein and Michigan over Houston. Next up, Providence and North Carolina, the 10-2 matchup. Once again, I think Joe Barry is going to be too much in this game. Joe Barry and North Carolina win it over Providence. Next up, Xavier and Gonzaga. This is my first one to go down in the tournament. My first 1 seed going home. It will be Xavier. I did not think they should have been a 1 seed in my opinion. They were a good team coming out of the Big East. I just don't think that they were good enough to get a 1 seed, but I think the Zags can improve that in this game. The Zags move over to the fourth round of the tournament. Next up, North Carolina and Michigan. This is probably the game that everyone's been picking Michigan to win this game, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here and take North Carolina just to stand out a little bit. So I'm gonna take North Carolina over Michigan because I just don't know if Michigan has enough power right now to beat North Carolina. So we'll see. And then I'll take North Carolina over Gonzaga to move over to the Final Four. They just have too much power this year. Roy Williams has got a very good team this year, last year's national champs. So I think Joe Barry and North Carolina win it and move into the Final Four. Now on to the top right-hand side of your bracket. Number 1 seed Villanova, probably one of the best teams in the tournament. They got probably the best 1-2 punch in the tournament. Jalen Brunson leads the way for Villanova, playing very well. So I'll take Villanova over Radford, who just got a big win last night in the 16 matchup. Next up, Alabama and Virginia Tech, the 8-9. Always one of the tougher ones to pick. Both offenses are high-powered, but I think Colin Sexton, the freshman phenom, is going to be the reason why Alabama and Avery Johnson get the win for Coach Johnson, and Colin Sexton improves his draft stock every single game. He gets the win for Alabama over Virginia Tech. Next up in the 5-12, Press Virginia, as we like to call them in college basketball. Bob Huggins and his West Virginia Mountaineers go against Murray State. Murray State's always been a good tournament team, but I think they are one game in and one game out this year. I think West Virginia's just got too much this year. Bob Huggins did very well in the Big 12. I'll take West Virginia over Murray State. Next up, Wichita State. Greg Marshall had a very good season in his first year in the American as they take on the Marshall Thundering Herd. I think Greg Marshall is going to beat Marshall in the first round. Wichita State gets the win over Marshall. Next up, the 6-11. Florida. The Gators coming in under head coach Mike White. Had a very good season. A little bit inconsistent as they go against the St. Bonaventure Bonnies out of the, can't remember what conference they were out of, but they just beat UCLA last night in the 11s. And I think St. Bonaventure is going to get another win in the tournament. I think Florida's just been too inconsistent this year for me to trust them in the first round. As much as I'll be cheering for the Gators tomorrow night at 9:57 p.m. Eastern, I just don't see them winning this game. I think St. Bonaventure's just got, their guard play is just too good. I think St. Bonaventure will win this game in a close one. Next up, Texas Tech and Stephen F. Austin. Texas Tech did very well this year, so I'm going to take the Red Raiders over Stephen F. Austin in the first round. Next up, Arkansas and Butler, two very good teams. I've not picked an SEC team to get out of the first round yet. And I think this is where the SEC breaks out. I actually have, but I think Arkansas is going to win this game over Butler to be one of the only SEC teams I see getting out of the first round. Arkansas gets the 7-10 win over Butler. Next up, Purdue, the 2 seed coming out of the Big Ten, did very well this season. And I think Purdue will easily slide by Cal State Fullerton, and they'll move on to the second round. Next on to my second round matchups, Villanova easily over Alabama. Colin Sexton's going to play well, but you can't win a game with just one guy. So I'm going to take Villanova. Jalen Brunson and this team is going to be too good. I think Villanova wins this game over Alabama. Next up, Virginia and Wichita State, the 5-4. I think Wichita State's going to win this game because I just don't trust West Virginia. West Virginia has a good defense. I just don't know about their offense. So I'm going to take Wichita State to win this game in the second round. St. Bonaventure and Texas Tech, the 11-3. I'm going to take Texas Tech to win this game. Texas Tech is a very good team. And I think the Red Raiders are going to move on into round 3 with a win over the Bonnies on either Saturday or Sunday. Next up, Arkansas and Purdue. I think Purdue's going to win this game. Purdue looks like a very good team this year, and I feel like Purdue is going to win this game over Arkansas. Next up, Purdue and Texas Tech. Third round, I think Purdue will win this game next weekend. Purdue looks very, very good this season, and I think they will prove to America why the Big Ten was one of the best conferences in basketball this season. So I'll take Purdue over Texas Tech. Next up, Wichita State and Villanova. Great year for Coach Greg Marshall, but I think it ends right here. Villanova, the Vegas favorite to win the tournament. I'll take Villanova over Wichita State and trust Vegas on the line. Next up, Villanova and Purdue. Easily here, Villanova wins. I think Villanova's got one of the best teams in the tournament this year. So that's my third team into the Final Four in Villanova. Now on to the bottom right-hand side of your bracket, the final side of the bracket for you. Kansas and Penn. Kansas easily wins. Bill Self's one of the best coaches in college basketball, and I think Kansas gets it done over Penn. Next up, Seton Hall and NC State. Seton Hall did very well in the Big East this year, and I think Seton Hall will get the win over NC State, but it should be a very good battle as it always is in the 8-9. Next up in the 5-12 matchup on this side of the bracket will be number 5 ranked Clemson going against number 12 New Mexico State. And New Mexico State's a very good team. I think they'll get the win over a very overrated Clemson team, in my opinion. I think New Mexico State wins it. And another upset for me in the tournament, I think New Mexico State wins it and moves on to the second round. Next up, Auburn, the one of the favorites coming out of the SEC, going against the Colonial Athletic Conference champions, the College of Charleston. First time in since 1996 for Charleston. Did very well in the tournament. I was hoping William and Mary would have gotten in this spot, but unfortunately they just fell apart at the end of the season. So I think Auburn's going to win this game. But I wouldn't be shocked to see Charleston win this game because they have a lot of bigs inside, and Auburn's without their star center. So we'll see if that'll hurt Auburn. But I don't think Auburn's going to win this game. I do think so, but I think it won't be that long after before they get eliminated. Next up, TCU. The Horned Frogs doing very well this season. Going against either Arizona State or Syracuse. They play tonight in Dayton, and I think TCU wins this game. TCU's got a very good team this year. As much as I'd love to pick the Devils to win this game, I just don't think so. Sorry, Clintus. I don't think your ASU Sun Devils are winning this game. I'll take TCU over Arizona State. Next up, Tom Izzo, one of the founding fathers of college basketball. He goes against the Bucknell Bison in the first round, and easily Michigan State wins this game as a 3. They've done very, very well this season, and I think that they will win this game over Bucknell. Next up, the 7-10, the University of Rhode Island, and it's the 7th seed, and a team that nobody thought was going to be in the tournament, but I think they're just doing it for money and player star power, and that is Oklahoma with Trae Young. He did very well at the start of the season. He just slowed down a little bit at the end of the season, but I think Trae Young's going to be enough for Oklahoma to pull off the upset over URI in the first round, and URI goes home in the first round of the tournament. Next up, Duke. Coach K did very, very well this year, as always. Grayson Allen and this team did very, very well this year. I think Duke moves into the second round. Marvin Bagley, a guy who I would love to see the national draft come June. So I'll take Duke over Iona. Next up in the second round, 1-9. Easily, Kansas wins this game. Bill Self's got one of his best teams this year. I think Bill Self and Kansas win to move on to the second weekend of the tournament. Next up, Auburn and New Mexico State. I'm going to take New Mexico State here. I think the New Mexico State team's got a very good team this year. Again, not enough size down the line in the 5 spot for Auburn. I just feel like Auburn's going to get a little bit hammered inside, and I think New Mexico State wins this game. Next up, TCU and Michigan State. Michigan State's got a very good player this year who I was very impressed with last year, but he's impressed me again this year. So I think Michigan State wins this game and moves on to the second round of Malcolm Bridges. He played very well this year. I saw him play against Duke earlier this year. Did very well, so I'll move the number 3 seed Michigan State over to the third round. Next up, Oklahoma and Duke, 2 very good teams. And I think Duke's going to win this game. Duke has had a very good season, and Trae Young's freshman season will be over right here. So I'll take Duke over Oklahoma. Next up, in my Elite 8, Michigan State, Kansas. I think Bill Self is going to get eliminated right here. Tom Izzo's got one of his best teams this year. He's got a very good squad this year. I'm going to take Michigan State over Kansas. Next up, Michigan State and Duke. Yeah, Michigan State and Duke. I think Michigan State will win this game. Easy. Michigan State's got a very good squad this year. Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo has got a very good team. He will finally beat Coach K. He has never beaten Coach K in his life, and I think he'll do it in the Sweet 16. I'll take Michigan State over Duke. And I'll move Kansas over to the Elite 8 as well with the win over New Mexico State. Next up, Kansas and Michigan State, my final game before the Final Four. And I think Michigan State's, again, like I said, a very good team this year. I think Michigan State's going to win this game and move on to the Final Four once again. Now on to the Final Four in San Antonio, Texas. 4 teams left. Virginia, North Carolina, Villanova, and Michigan State are my Final Four. First off, Villanova and Michigan State, the 1-3 matchup. And I think the 3 seeds making the championship game this year, folks. Jay Billis said it on First Take yesterday that he thinks Michigan State's going all the way. So I'll trust Jay Billis more than I trust Vegas this year, and I'll take Michigan State over Villanova, even though Vegas is in love with Villanova right now. And next up, Virginia and North Carolina. Virginia wins this game. I think just too much defense for the Cavs. I think that Virginia gets the win over North Carolina. And now for my national championship game, I'm going to take Virginia to win the national championship 64-56 final. And I just feel like Virginia is a very good team. If they play like they've been doing all year, I just don't see a team beating Virginia this year. And that will do it for this episode of Scott's Reading Sports City, ladies and gentlemen. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Leave a nice comment down below. Share these videos with your friends and subscribe if you are new to my channel. And I'll see you guys right back here next week on Scott's Weekend Sports right here on YouTube. See you later, guys.